What's good? How y'all doing this evening?
Sport. It's your boy Coach Mario and the man known as the Don, my co-host. What's going on, man?
Start back over, Coach. Start back over. I apologize.
Start over again. Okay. Welcome to a special Tuesday edition of the FILA Sports Podcast. We're talking college football. It's rivalry week. It's Tuesday. Your boy Coach Mario and my co-host, the man known as the Don. Am I cool now?
You good, man? My fault.
Okay.
I had your mic on mute.
Oh, okay.
My bad. I was doing the audio check earlier and I forgot to uncheck it. How y'all doing this? Look, it's been a day for me, man. It's been a day, y'all. How y'all doing this evening? Man. I'm glad y'all could join us on a special edition of Rivalry Week. We already know we riding hard for our team this week. You already know I got my team on. You know, I got the 11-time national champion Michigan Wolverine jacket on. You know, check out the gear. You know. But anyway, but if y'all new to the channel, y'all already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Share this content out with other Georgia college sports fanatics. And hit us up in the comment section. As always,
come holla.
It's your hometown sports podcast. All right. So we got it's pretty much a debate tonight because we got one guy from Georgia State and we got one guy for Georgia Southern. We're gonna start off with Ben Moore. He is a writer and content creator for Georgia State. What's good, man?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Hope you guys are doing well.
All right. And we have Travis on for Georgia Southern. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. If I can figure out how to work Skype. Got it.
All right. All right. So, guys, y'all already know where to follow us at. On Twitter, FILA_SP. Instagram, FILA Sports Podcast, and on Facebook, FILA Sports Podcast. You can check us out audio only on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Play. And there's some other small, I guess, places you can find us on there as well. So, yes. So, Coach, go ahead and run down the scores from this previous week and games this upcoming.
Okay. First of all, before we even get into it, I have to let you guys know this week in college football, the biggest game in the city is not clean old-fashioned hate. And if you know anything about college football, you should know what the biggest game in this state is this week. But we'll start with last week.
Go ahead and say it, man. You can't just start stuff out, man, and just leave people hanging. What is it, man?
It's this game. Georgia State and Georgia Southern.
You already know, man. Just tell everybody, man. Don't be
just leaving folks hanging. I was. It's a tease, Don. I was doing a tease, man. I was a tease. Right. No, seriously. If you think that Georgia Tech and Georgia is the biggest game in the state this week, I'm sorry, you're wrong. You know, I'm a Bulldogs fan, but it's absolutely not the biggest game. It's not the game I'm looking forward to the most. I'm more looking forward to this game.
To be honest with you, there's more people in this state, like graduates, that go to either State and Southern. So that's why I can agree with you on that. Because everybody, let's be honest, everybody can't afford to go to State, and everybody can't afford to go to UGA and Georgia Tech. Just let's keep it spade to spade, you know.
And another thing, I'm sorry, this game is just compelling. I mean, you know, nobody expects Tech to make a big game of it. This game right here, you know, this has storylines. This has intrigue. You know, I mean, nobody expects Tech to stay within 3 scores of Georgia. You know, Georgia got offensive issues now, but this game, like I said, is certainly the most compelling in the city. So, if you know anything about college football, you should be excited about this one. Yeah. But run down the scores from last week real quick, and then we'll get into it. Georgia took on Texas A&M. They got the win, 19-13.
Nail biter at the end.
Nail biter at the end. once again, terrible weather, strong defensive performance from Georgia, and Texas A&M actually did play good defense too.
I enjoyed watching that game, man. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I enjoyed watching that game.
And this Saturday, Georgia will take on Tech at noon. ABC. Clean old fashioned hate.
Yes.
We'll be back tomorrow actually to preview and talk about that game a little bit more in depth. Like I said, Georgia Tech it was actually Thursday game last week they played. They took on North Carolina State and they got the win 28-26. It was a spirited performance. Kennesaw State, their last action, they took on Gardner Webb 42-17. And Saturday, this was after the game, Kennesaw State, which we expected, got the at-large bid in the FCS playoffs. And they take on Wofford Saturday at 4 on ESPN3. So you can come check out Kennesaw State, ESPN3, Wofford, 4 p.m. Saturday, a playoff game. So everybody tune in and make sure you support Kennesaw State. Valdosta State, they're in the playoffs. They're in the division. And, I just found this out, too, doing this today. A lot of people don't realize FCS playoffs and Division II playoffs aren't the same thing. They're two completely really different playoffs. Yeah, I just found out that today that people didn't realize that FCS is not Division II. FCS Division One is NAS. Then FCS playoffs and Division II playoffs are completely totally different. Yeah, they're not. They both have 32 teams, but they're not, like I said, the same playoffs. So I just found out that today. People was like, "Yeah, really?" So yes, Valdosta State is in the playoffs, Division II playoffs. They had a bye last week, automatic bye. This week they take on West Florida. West Florida last week beat Wingate. Wingate, starting cornerback, went to Stevenson High School. Done. But anyway, Valdosta State actually played West Florida, the 9th game of the year, and West Florida actually gave them pretty good battle. So that'll be Valdosta State's second round playoff game coming up Saturday. They got a bye in the first round. Pretty much our HBCUs, Morehouse and Clark. I hope you guys know their season. Yeah, their season was over a couple weeks ago when they ended against each other. West Georgia, pretty much. All the other teams pretty much are finishing up now. Besides Tech. Tech will be done after Saturday. They're not going to a game, so you'll really just have possibly Georgia State, Georgia Southern, Valdosta State, Kennesaw State, and Georgia still in action after this week.
Should have Savannah State playing too.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
But they're not playing, but they should be.
Yes.
Yeah, they should be. But they did good in the season.
They did, and we all know where their starting quarterback is from too, Don.
We know they went to Stevenson, man. Oh Lord, man. Here you go.
Hey, you started the Michigan stuff. Come on, we
talking college. Hey, we talking college.
Savannah State is college.
Man, you talking? But you bringing up Stevenson though.
Okay. Well, he went to Stevenson. Now he's in college. I know. All right. And that brings us to the topic tonight: Georgia State versus Georgia Southern. And like I said, both teams have had strong seasons. Both teams have, we expected preseason. We did a preview show, Don and myself. We expected both teams to reach bowl eligibility. And man, it's crazy how these seasons mirror each other, because both teams have had great wins. Both teams have had a bad loss that you didn't expect them to win. Both teams like to run the heck out the ball. The rivalry is real now. And
Georgia State, and let's be honest, Georgia State last year they didn't do well, and then Southern came into the season with a lot of controversy and stuff. And for both teams to become bowl eligible, I think that's very, very impressive. So because nobody really gave these two schools any chances of reaching a bowl game this season.
And I guess I'll start with you, Travis. The rivalry is real. It's real now. How important is the rivalry to Georgia Southern?
I mean, it's huge. I think when you talk about App State and Georgia State as far as rivals for Georgia Southern, there's arguments on both sides for who the biggest rival is. I don't think necessarily that matters so much. What matters is the level of hatred on both sides. That's what makes a rivalry, right? There is no shortage of hatred on both sides in this rivalry. And for me, that's what makes it, so intriguing off the rip. But the fact that Georgia State has a 3-2 lead in the series and Georgia Southern prides itself on being a quote unquote football school. I guess theoretically Georgia State would be the basketball school in that equation. But if you're the football school and you're losing 3-2 in the all-time series, there's a lot on the line, and to win a 7th game for Georgia Southern this year would guarantee them a bowl game. They've already reached the minimum 6-game requirement, and I think they'll go to a bowl game regardless. But 7 wins would solidify that, guarantee it, and it would also give them 4 wins in their last 4 tries against App State and Georgia State. So it's a huge game on both sides, and I think the rivalry is real, and I think it's only going to grow. Now we just got to get it out of this November or this Thanksgiving week slot, I think, at least.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Add that to the notes. Yeah. Add that to the notes.
I will. I'll circle that back. Right. Because I was just about to ask, when would you like to see it paid? We're gonna circle back there, Travis.
That's a fair question. I'm not sure when I would like to see it played.
Ben, so how does the basketball school feel about the rivalry?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because these two schools are not unfamiliar, especially on the hard court. They've played since 1963-64 season, so they've gone back away. Southern had a huge advantage, quite honestly, in the all-time series, and as Travis mentioned, the games have mattered in a big way. And Georgia State historically had struggled to identify rivals. Being in the old Atlantic Sun and TAC, there didn't really have rivalries with some of the Alabama schools, Samford, Jacksonville State. So when Georgia Southern, joined with App State, Georgia State in the Sun Belt, it just kind of rekindled that rivalry in all sports. And frankly, I think it's been great in all sports. You're seeing, both sides' attendance continue to rise. Certainly, we've seen the social media banter back and forth between the fan bases and the picking back and forth. I think is a very good thing. And quite honestly, what college sports is about. You don't want apathy on either side. You want the games to matter. And as Travis mentioned, on the Georgia Southern side, it's very important. It's very important on the Georgia State side as well. The Panthers and Coach Sean Elliott are continuing to try to improve upon a record-breaking season, shatter records basically for regular season wins, rushing record. I think they're up in the top 12. I think right now 11th or 12th, depending on where you look. In rushing yards per game. Certainly Georgia Southern has been a dominant rushing program, and that's kind of what they're known for with their option going back to their FCS days. But, it's a great thing for both schools, I think, and I agree with Travis wholeheartedly. Definitely needs to be moved off of rivalry weekend. And you're starting to see that more of the group of 5 schools are getting away from doing it. You saw, we certainly know to our neighbors to the west in Alabama, you're seeing Troy and South Alabama both move their games away from the Iron Bowl on Saturday, just not to compete, because they understand, hey, look, we aren't the big fish in the state. We need to do things a little bit smarter and stay away from those games. So could it be moved in the future? I know both coaches on both sides had opinions on the Sun Belt media conference call. I know Travis wrote about it this week, and both coaches have talked about it. And I could see it getting moved, especially with the new commissioner in the Sun Belt, kind of taking a look at it and listening quite more than Carl Benson did. That's for sure.
Here's my opinion on that. I don't think it should be moved out of Thanksgiving week. It should be moved out of that Saturday. I can agree to you on that. But why not play the game like on a Wednesday night? You're not going to move the game on Thursday because that's NFL. But why not play the game Wednesday, the night before Thanksgiving?
But here's what I'll bounce back to you. Neither students are in either, so you lose that advantage. And why I think it's very difficult for a lot of these campuses, and you'll see gaps in the crowd for the student sections will be all weekend, because in most places, especially around the Southeast, school's out.
Yeah,
and these kids are at home. So so it's difficult. It's a difficult balance. And I hope they do what's best for both schools, quite candidly.
Well, and on top of that, see, you look at Alabama. You got Alabama, Auburn. Both of those schools are good. Okay. And Troy and South Alabama, they are the little fish. But if you look at the rivalry right now, we're going to talk about this game tomorrow, Georgia and Georgia Tech. Like, Georgia's just been dominating Tech for years now. Like, it's really not. You're gonna see. I'm not saying you're gonna see Paulson Stadium like jam packed, but in my opinion, as far as the game goes, I think this game is gonna be way better to watch than Georgia Tech. Because both of y'all are evenly matched teams. You don't know if Tech. You don't know if State's gonna win. You don't know if Southern's gonna win. But going into the UGA and Tech game, come on now. We all four of us right here, we can all agree that who's gonna win that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, also Georgia Tech and Georgia not being in the same conference, kind of. If one team is pretty bad and Georgia Tech qualifies, it's pretty bad. If you're not in the same conference, then it becomes kind of a moot point. Unless Georgia Tech, obviously, if they pull off the upset, the results and the ramifications of that would be national for Georgia, and so that would make it a big deal. But otherwise, there's not really a lot on the line besides pride because they're not in the same conference. Georgia State and Georgia Southern obviously are.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I believe. I guess. I hadn't thought about the moving it off the weekend before you guys brought it up. Like when Travis first said, I was like, I was like, okay, to compete with, not to compete with Georgia, and then Ben. I hadn't thought about that point as well with the students not being in class.
Yeah, but they at least they flex the times because Southern and State games is at 6, and I believe Tech and Tech is at noon. So you're not gonna make both games, all right? Unless you stay. Yeah, you're not gonna unless you got a helicopter or a jet that you can just fly into Statesboro from Atlanta. But as far as watching it on TV, you can sit here and you can watch the Tech and UGA game, and then when that goes off, you can go watch the State and Southern game.
No,
because that's what I'm gonna do. I tried to go. I was thinking about going to the game this week to cover it, but I really want to see Ohio State and Michigan. Yeah. So that's just my opinion.
And in a couple years, this game is going to come down to one of these teams is going to win and get a berth to the conference championship game. So, I do feel y'all, but it's anticlimactic. But that moment is coming in a couple years, that last game on Thanksgiving weekend is going to be magical when it does happen. But you got
teams like Valdosta State. You got there's other teams like here in the South, like, and I'm not just talking about in Georgia, that's gonna try to apply to get into the Sun Belt.
Yes.
So, and when y'all get up to 12 teams, how many teams is it now? 11, 10?
It's 10.
It's 10 in football.
Yeah, 10 in football. So y'all only need like 2 teams to really like make an argument for a championship game.
They already have a championship game played next weekend.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
App State, Louisiana play.
Yep. Yeah, it's already set.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm still new to the Sun Belt.
Good call, Ben. That's a good call, Ben.
Hey, everybody got to have that conference championship game now. Cha-ching.
Yep.
Ray Kramer, SEC? Yeah, they thought he was crazy when he introduced it, and guess what? Everybody
follows. Everybody
even
follows
the SEC, even the coaches in the SEC hated him. But the cash register started ringing, and the national championship started stacking up. And guess what? Ray Kramer looked like a genius. Okay, but all right. So, Travis, you mentioned that that Georgia Southern can solidify its bowl chances with a win Saturday, just like you. I think they're good already. Period. So Saturday just solidified. What are their bowl? What does Georgia Southern's bowl outlook look like?
Well, I mean, right now, I would guess it would be the Cheer Bowl in Orlando. And the reason I say that is because if you start looking at the 5 bowls that the Sun Belt has tied in, and you kind of start from the top, slot a team in there, and then work your way down, that's kind of where I get. And, you
Me
know,
too.
there are rankings kind of to these bowls. I mean, if we're all kind of honestly looking at it and assessing these bowls, there's, of the 5 bowls, there's the best one, and there's the 5th best one. I would think that it would be the Louisiana, the App State team goes to Louisiana after winning the Sun Belt title. Then you would put the Raging Cajuns either in Montgomery or Mobile for travel purposes. I mean, this is just a guess also. And then from there you would work, I would assume maybe like Arkansas State out in Arizona, Georgia State to the other one that Louisiana doesn't go to in Alabama, and then Georgia Southern in Orlando. Obviously, there's other bowl-eligible teams, and so that will obviously play a part in where Georgia Southern goes. But if you understand, and we all do, that bowls are about money and the bottom line, and fan bases that travel, Georgia Southern, you know, it doesn't really get a lot better than them at the G5 level as far as traveling goes, spending money, and supporting the program in general. So, you know, having been to Montgomery last year for the Camellia Bowl, I wouldn't think
going back. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, you know, I haven't done any reporting on that. I don't know that the Montgomery Bowl and the Raycom media people, you know, don't want Georgia Southern back. I know that Georgia Southern people don't necessarily want to go back to Montgomery if given a choice, but they do understand that they will go to any bowl that wants them. I would think that there's enough different options now where the Camellia Bowl wouldn't need to have Georgia Southern 2 years in a row. And as a person that's going to be covering the game, I certainly hope it's in Orlando instead of Mobile and Montgomery.
I guess late December it might be a little bit nicer in Orlando than Mobile or Montgomery.
Yeah.
You go to Mobile, maybe you catch you some good gumbo or some good shrimp or something like that.
And unpopular opinion, Mobile is better than New Orleans in my opinion. But
whoa. That is an unpopular opinion.
And I don't like New Orleans anyway, so yeah.
All right, Ben. So same question, Georgia State. You know, we're pretty sure Georgia State, they're already bowl eligible. Pretty sure Georgia State is locked in and going to a bowl. Where do we think that Georgia State could be spending time in late December?
Yeah, I actually pulled up there is a bidding process to this. It doesn't have to always happen that way, but the league basically does have tie-ins to 5 bowls, and there's 5 bowl eligible teams at this point. Now, obviously, Troy could jump in and be in that mix and really cause some chaos. And to Travis's earlier point, you know, there's been Sun Belt teams that have been left out. Just even last year, Louisiana Monroe was 6-6 and didn't go to a bowl game. So, you know, you certainly want to avoid that as an option. I see under no circumstances Georgia Southern gets left out one way or the other, depending on the result for Saturday's game. But something to keep in mind as well about the Cure Bowl and certainly their drive and the conversation around the Sun Belt has basically been certainly about Arkansas State and Blake Anderson losing his wife to cancer during the season this year. That makes a ton of sense for Arkansas State there to, you know, as Travis said, sell a bunch of tickets and raise a bunch of awareness as well for breast cancer and cancer awareness in general. So I'd keep an eye on there. But no, most times, you know, bowls don't like to pick the same teams, you know, consecutive years. It just doesn't make sense. It's the same thing. They don't want to, you know, have the same matchup. I've seen some projections and things like that. Georgia State facing off against a Western Michigan team they just played basically 7 weeks ago. That doesn't make any sense either. I wouldn't really pay attention much to that. But everything from what I've heard and sort of the conversation Saturday in Atlanta is that Georgia State's looking at one of the 2 games in Alabama, and Sean Elliott even spoke out this morning on local radio here in Atlanta and said he would prefer to be one of the the one in Montgomery specifically for to put the calendar basically to bed and not 2020 having a game that late in January. He said he'd prefer to play the national championship college football playoff in the first week of January, not a bowl game in Alabama. So I'm sure that's not making those folks very, very happy. But he wants to obviously get the spring calendar cooking, and let's call it what it is. I mean, it's also a huge recruiting time as well in January, and a lot of things have to kind of go pause, and the Panthers would lose a very important recruiting weekend by playing a bowl game on a Monday night.
Yes.
The bowl tie-ins, people know the bowl tie-ins, but some of the bowls do have the right to recruit, or they don't have to take the necessarily team that's slotted in there. They can take the next team. Bowls have that right because they want to attract the best matchup or the fans. If you guys didn't,
and sometimes it's always by location too. Like
it is, yeah. Like you're saying, Arkansas State. Arkansas State and Arkansas, they're closer to Arizona, thinking that you're going to get the Arkansas State faithful to go to Montgomery. Don't sound like that great of a trip. You can get people to go to Orlando because Orlando's a compelling city when you're talking about vacationing, but just to go hang out in Montgomery on
only thing to do in Montgomery
December 27th,
only thing to do in Montgomery is look at the Rosa Parks bus boycott thing. That's pretty much all you can do in Montgomery, in my opinion. That's it.
That's literally the only thing I did in Montgomery last year when I went for the bowl game.
Exactly. That's all you can do. It's a good museum. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
But for the other for the other 20 hours in the day.
Ain't nothing out there to eat. Ain't no special restaurants. There's nothing out there. Nothing in Montgomery.
Yeah.
Mobile, yes. And thank you.
Mobile is low key a nice seafood town, a place to get some good, good food.
And thank you, and thank you that Georgia boy 17. He said New Orleans did steal Mardi Gras from Alabama, Mobile, Alabama. That is true. Look it up. That's true.
They stole who that from Cincinnati.
Yeah, they be stealing everything from everybody.
As you can see, we don't love Saints fans on this show.
I don't like Louisiana, period.
Yeah.
Other than Popeyes. Other than Popeyes. I like Popeyes. That's about it.
He said he don't like the whole state. Okay. I mentioned earlier in the show that the similarities between Georgia State and Georgia Southern are they're especially when you come to offensively. Both teams want to spread you out, but they want to spread you out and run the heck out of the football. And both teams do it pretty effectively. Both teams have quarterbacks that can make plays with their arms and their legs. Both teams are going to have 3-4 guys touch the ball each Saturday. Like I say, if you enjoy watching teams run the football, this is definitely a game to check out. I'll start with you this time, Ben. Do you think the team that runs the ball, i.e. stops the run the most, is going to be victorious Saturday?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think the team that limits the big plays and the mistakes, quite candidly, I think that was the one story of the game the last few years. The winner has won the turnover battle and came up with plays, in not only in special teams but just defensively. Being able to stop either team and seeing the turnover margin. There's been some really ugly games in this series, quite honestly, where they're not so aesthetically pleasing, turnovers and interceptions and different things like that. But I know there are, two out of the, the first two games were complete blowouts on either side. So they, as both teams and programs continue to kind of grow at the FBS level, and last year certainly got out of hand pretty quickly with the Panthers turning the ball over several times. But yeah, I would expect a healthy dose of rushing yards on both sides and a relatively quick game on Saturday in Statesboro.
Yeah.
Well, you just jinxed us now. Now it's going to be like a 6-hour game.
Both teams are going to come out and throw the ball 35 times now.
Yeah.
two lightning delays and be there for 4 hours. Right?
Come on, man. Don't put that on me.
Yeah. The weather in Statesboro has just not been good this season. Like, I've been out there a few times covering the game, and like almost every time I go out there, it's raining.
It's been wild this season.
Yeah.
So, Trav, do you think that'll be the key to the game as well? Which team that can, the rushing yards, or do you think it'll come down to who can throw the ball the best?
No, I mean, I don't think that throwing the ball is going to be like the ultimate determinant in who wins. But I will say this: I think that what Georgia Southern has struggled with this season is defending prolific passing offenses, and in the Sun Belt, there are a lot of those. I mean, it's easy to kind of look around the Sun Belts and come to the conclusion that everyone's awful at defense. But and honestly, like I really did, I kind of thought that early on. But after you start watching some of these teams, I think it's clear that the conference as a whole has moved in a certain direction as far as what they're going to do offensively and what they're going to do as a team, be built on strong passing offenses and really let everything else kind of be pretty much average. Georgia State and Georgia Southern have done the opposite. Georgia State of late has really returned to the run game, whereas before Sean Elliott got there, they weren't so concerned with running the ball. Again, there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's just different philosophies. But I think it is interesting that these two teams in the state of Georgia in this conference lead the league in rushing attempts. And Georgia Southern, when they were predicted to finish third in the East preseason, I think a lot of people thought the offense was going to be so-so with a couple of playmakers in Shywirtz and Wesley Kennedy. Yeah. And the defense was going to be, really highly ranked in the conference for sure, but really highly ranked throughout the country with what we thought was a tandem of cornerbacks that were, some of the best in the country.
Yep.
It hasn't really worked out that way. And I don't know really the firm reason for why Monquavian Brinson and Kendall Vildor haven't been as dominant as they were last year. I guess they were due to kind of regress back to the mean, but the passing defense of Georgia Southern has been a glaring weakness for them. And so, that's a long-winded way of saying this. I don't think that Georgia State is going to, expose that too often strictly because of Dan Ellington's kind of adjustment to becoming a different quarterback since tearing his ACL. I do think it'll be the running game, and I'm really excited to see Trey Barnett versus this rushing defense of Georgia Southern, because as good as Trey Barnett is, and I think he is really, really, really good and worthy of a lot of Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year discussion, I do think that Georgia Southern's rush defense won't be surprised by what they see from Barnett. They faced LSU early on, Minnesota, who obviously playing in the Big Ten prides it. So they should have. Well, I'll say this: they could have beat Minnesota. They were winning with 13 seconds to go.
I watched that game. I watched that whole game, man. They should have beaten them.
Yeah. So and then they faced Louisiana. This rush defense has, and Louisiana's rushing offense is really something to behold. I don't think Georgia Southern's going to be, taken aback by Georgia State's running game, and I think they're built kind of for this type of matchup. But again, if Ellington and those young receivers start getting things going early, as many teams have against Georgia Southern, it could be tough for Georgia Southern to start controlling the ball, running the ball, and instead they might have to resort to what they did last week, and that's let Wirtz throw it 20, 25 times. If that happens, I think Wirtz is capable. The receivers are capable for Georgia Southern, but that probably means that something went terribly wrong early on. These two teams are both top three in fewest penalties per game. Georgia Southern won. I think Georgia State is either 2 or 3. Georgia Southern has had the fewest amount of rush attempts against it all year of anyone in the conference. And I think that's due to teams seeing that they can pass the ball on Georgia Southern. So whether or not Georgia State comes in and says we want to attack Georgia Southern's weakness, the passing, or do they come in and say we want to do what we do really well, running? That'll be something I think that'll be pretty fascinating to watch.
I think we're gonna get a heavy dose of run from both teams. I think both teams are gonna come in and do what they do. Yeah, but I expect that's what to see. But like I said, I'm super excited for this game. I've been excited for this game.
And on top and on top of that, I think Wes Kennedy, man. I've been covering him all season long. I really think he's gonna have a huge game this Saturday.
All right, so a few of y'all in the chat, DGB is the only one active today. Thanks, DGB, for joining us. Go ahead and put your predictions in the chat as we go ahead and go over ours. Done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go off beat a little bit right now. That hat you got on your head.
What about
who's gonna win that game Saturday?
Man, you go for the spot for real. Look, man, I'm gonna be honest with you, man.
You've been saying all year who you think gonna win.
I know. But look, if Harbaugh cannot beat Ohio State, he needs to go. I'm sorry. Hold on, stop. Why am I apologizing? I've been a fan of this team since I could understand football. Like, no, he needs to go. What do you mean? Last year? What do you mean last year?
I was just joking with you, man.
I've been a fan since Desmond Howard, man. Don't try me, man. All right.
Yeah.
So, like I said,
beat Harbaugh, he gotta go.
If he can't beat Ohio State, he need to go, man. Like Brady Hope, who was the coach before Harbaugh, at least he beat Ohio State one time. You telling me you've been at 5 almost going on your 5th season, you can't beat Ohio State? Come on now. All right, but let's get back to this.
Going to win.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Okay.
I want Michigan to win, but how the way Ohio State been playing, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. So.
All right. Well, that Georgia boy, he put his prediction in. He said he has Georgia State winning 34-20. Man, I guess I was stalling. That's why I started with Don. Don, what do you think about this game Saturday? What's your prediction for Georgia State, Georgia Southern?
I think Georgia Southern, I'm going to say 31 for Georgia Southern, 21 for Georgia State.
I'm stalling because I don't know. I really don't know, man. I've been back and forth all year. So I guess, if I had to pick right now, I can't pick a score.
It's gonna be a 10-point spread. 10 point spread.
I would have to lean with Southern right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know the score, but I think it's going to be a compelling, awesome game, and I don't think any team is going to run away with it. I think it's going to go right down to the wire. What do you think, Ben? We'll start with you again first. What do you think, Ben?
Full disclosure, I'm terrible at predictions, and I'm normally wrong. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that out there right now. But
it's Georgia State.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and go with that just to make everybody on Twitter excited. If not, I'm not sure I'll be welcome back into the friendly confines. No, it's a 7-point spread right now. I mean, for the folks out there in the desert who follow such things, Georgia State is one of the best bets in college football this season against the spread. So I agree. I mean, it's going to be close. I think it's one of those coin flip games. I'm like Travis mentioned. I'm excited to see the Georgia State offensive line, which has really been one of the better units in the league this season. Just being able to protect Dan Ellington and keep him upright against the Georgia Southern front seven. And again, funky things happen in rivalry games, but I'll throw a 28-24 type game, and with the visitors taking over Statesboro again.
Okay.
All right. Trav?
Yeah, I honestly, just like Ben said, I think I have gotten Georgia Southern's predictions this season about 10% correct. So just right off the rip, I'll say that. So that's bad news for Georgia Southern fans, because I think this matchup, and I've thought this all year, honestly, I think this matchup is really one of the only ones in the league this year where I can see Georgia Southern having a distinct advantage, at least coming into the game on paper, in several spots. We already talked about their pass defense versus a lot of the conference who, are capable of big plays. in the passing game. So I think this is one of those matchups where their strength matches up with Georgia State's strength. I like Georgia Southern to win something like 30-14, something like that. I don't think it's going to be a one possession or two possession game. I will say this, my thoughts on it were a lot different when Dan Ellington was completely healthy. I honestly, towards the beginning of the season, before conference play started, I thought Ellington looked better than even Zach Thomas at App State, and better certainly than Levi Lewis at Louisiana, and even Caleb Evans at Monroe. I thought he was playing better than anyone. So it's a shame that he had to go through this ACL thing. He's certainly more than capable of carrying his team regardless. But I think coming into this game, they're going to lean heavily on Trey Barnett, understandably. And I think that matches up perfectly with what Georgia Southern is able to do defensively. One thing to note, though, is that Georgia Southern has kind of found itself in the middle of some of these games as far as pass rush goes. When they send blitzes, especially against Troy, it seems like when they blitzed, Troy had a quick play called and ready to go, a quick pass. So if you blitz everyone and you don't even have an offensive line out there, if it's a quick pass, it doesn't matter. You're not getting to the quarterback in time anyways. And then the times that they would sit back in coverage was when Caleb Barker would kind of sit back there in the pocket for 4 or 5 seconds and, have his way against that passing defense. So they're going to have to be able to kind of guess correctly on a lot of these plays, run pass. And if they do that, I think they'll have a lot of success. But yeah, I do like Georgia Southern in this game, probably by a pretty fair margin if you are looking at the betting spread for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah. If you check out the chat, Don,
I got this dude, man. Like, I'm coming in here talking that, man, talking about, and y'all started the third up 28-3. Man, that's so corny, man. Find some new material, man. Look, look. It's cool because he talking all this noise now. Wait till Thursday. If the Falcons whoop that behind one more time, 2 times in a row this season, he gonna be MIA. Like last time. Remember last time he came on the show 3 minutes to the show ended. Talking about I didn't get a notification to come on the show. Get out of here, man.
Yeah. And yeah, Mark, I'm sorry, just in case you didn't know, Mark. Yes, Mardi Gras did not start in New Orleans. It started in Mobile, I believe. So
it started, but you got to realize, man, Louisiana education fails a lot of people there, man. They last in the country, man.
Jeez.
They are like last, right?
They did last
in education. So, the public school system in New Orleans should be on Dateline. But anyway, so thanks both of you. Oh, okay. I see now it's about you didn't tell Julio didn't practice. Yeah. So for you to be a New Orleans fan, you sure reading a lot about what's going on in Falcons camp.
Hey,
I don't know who from New Orleans didn't practice today.
Hey. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for the views, because more views we get, hey, the more we get closer to where we need to get to. So, hey.
Trav, who's your NFL team?
Oh man, come on! I'm a Dolphins fan.
Dolphins.
You get a pass. We're sorry.
Yeah.
You get a pass.
So yeah, we haven't really done much wrong to anyone else. We haven't beaten any other team. So
nobody's mad at y'all, right?
Yeah. Usually when I'm out with Dolphins gear on, which is rare, I get a lot of drinks bought for me. People feel sorry.
You and Trick Daddy, huh? Just about the only Dolphins fans I represent. And
that's one of the many things.
Well, you forgot.
Have in common.
You have
a lot in common, right?
You forgot Darius Rucker. Darius Rucker, he's a huge Dolphins fan too.
He is.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Booty in the boot.
I never see him at the meetings.
Okay, I know he's a big game.
He made a song about the Dolphins. He had Dan Marino on one of his videos back in '94 when he I Want to Be With You. That song. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm showing my age. I'm showing my age.
South Carolina Gamecock fan.
Yeah, he's a South Carolina fan. He's a Cincinnati Reds fan, and he's a Dolphins fan.
Okay. And Ben, we had you on last time. Didn't you say you were a Falcons fan?
Oh yeah, man. Listen,
Okay.
I think I gave y'all the story last time where was growing up and supposed to meet Falcons quarterback Chris Miller, and instead they sent Gilbert Renfro. So, shout out to Gilbert Renfro.
Gilbert Renfro.
I still think I have the 8x10 signed by him, and he was an arena football legend. Rest in peace.
He's a preseason football legend too. Gilbert Renfro was guaranteed to come in preseason in third quarter and give Falcons something to cheer for about 3 or 4 years. Renfro was awesome in preseason. Okay. So Trav, let everybody know who you are again and check where they can check you out in and plug anything you want to plug.
Yeah. So I'm the Georgia Southern athletics beat writer at Savannah Morning News in Savannah, Georgia. You can find a lot of good coverage of Georgia Southern mostly, but also the Sun Belt as a whole at savannahnow.com. And on our homepage, you can also sign up for a free Georgia Southern newsletter that comes to your inbox late Tuesday night for Wednesday morning reading. We also have a podcast that's on weekly, actually getting set to record it as soon as I'm done with you guys. It's called Georgia Southern Extra, and it is on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your podcasts. So definitely go on there and subscribe that, please. Only rate it if you're going 5 stars.
Yes. Same thing for us. Yeah.
Oh, I should plug my Twitter.
Go ahead.
2 Twitters. My official Twitter is @Jaudon Sports SMN. And then there is a parody account of me, which I'm trying to get their followers up. It's called @Jabroni Jaudon. So go follow them, because if my name's associated with it, I need more than 90 followers on that thing. And whoever's running it just has a really awful following to follower ratio. That's important to me. So go follow that.
Got you. Ben, let them know who you are and where they can check you out at and plug anything you want to plug.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm the publisher of Panthers.com. I've been fortunate to be with the 24/7 Sports Network for about 5 years, and I get to cover high school recruiting and football, basketball. We're less than a month away from the early signing period, so that's been keeping me pretty busy and talking to folks coming off of visits and such. But still cover Georgia State football and basketball, and looking forward to several games this week. It's, of course, basketball at home. Basketball season is kind of the bleed over between basketball and football. So the Panthers at home tomorrow, and covering that game and looking forward to the game on Saturday.
All right. Well.
All right. And we will be back tomorrow talking about Georgia and Georgia Tech.
We got
Tech.
we got Eric. We got I-20 Eric coming on, and we have Joseph Anthony coming on. Both of those guys, they work for Georgia Sports Hospitality Media. FILA Sports is now affiliated with Georgia Sports Hospitality Media as well. We write for them as well. It's gonna be a great show. Just come watch it.
I don't want to hear any. We have Georgia. We have a Georgia bias. Tech fans, come join the show.
Ain't no bias because I'm a Michigan fan, so I'm gonna be the referee. I was looking for me a referee shirt today. To be honest with you, I couldn't find one. So
yeah, have fun at the Outback Bowl.
Outback Bowl doesn't sound bad.
It doesn't. But if you're Michigan, you know what I'm saying, you have bigger aspirations. So
that's
have
fair.
Fun in Tampa.
Fair.
Have fun in Tampa.
Hey.
John.
Hold on.
You can't spell citrus without UT.
What did I say right there, though? Hold on. What did I say right there, though?
I can't see it. My screen. I'm on my phone.
11 times, son. 11 times. 11 times. 11 times. National champions. Thank you.
Oh, I was wondering what happened 11 times.
It's Tuesday.
We
I didn't watch the college football ranking show.
We won the championship 11 times. Anyway,
college football ranking show is a joke. Anyway, the rankings are.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So
we'll be back tomorrow. Everybody in the chat, appreciate y'all joining us tonight. If you're listening to this to a later time, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you, Travis, and thank you, Ben, for coming on. Best luck to both of y'all teams this Saturday. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm pulling for Southern because I cover Southern, so that's when my bias come in that, but you know, if State win, hey,
listen, you're allowed to cover Southern and still root heavily for them. I can vouch for that. I promise. I see it all the time. That's the only one, guys. That's the only shot. I promise.
Hey, man, you know what, Travis? I seen you in the press box before.
Have you?
Yeah. You haven't seen me yet, but when we end the show, you go see who I am, man. You go see, because I'm the guy that always get the Subway sandwiches and cookies and stuff.
So you're the one. You're the one that takes all
hiding over in the corner hoarding all the sandwiches. Yeah, that's him. Damn it. You're the reason there's no turkey left.
Yeah.
I don't eat turkey, see? I eat ham. Thank you. Bye. Everybody, we'll be back tomorrow, 8:00 tomorrow, to cover UGA and Tech. So if you're new to the channel, you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this content out with other Georgia college sports fanatics, and hit us up in the comment section. As always,
holler
at your hometown sports podcast. All right, we'll see y'all tomorrow at 8:00. Y'all have a great evening.
Tell them boys, play time's up.